Details have emerged of the shooting of a Trump accuser on Fifth Avenue, in an unnerving realization of Trump's famous assertion that he can shoot someone to death on the streets of New York and get away with it.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
E Jean Carroll, the woman who we contend has falsely alleged that Trump raped her in the lingerie section's dressing room of the Bergdorf Goodman department store on New York's Fifth Avenue, has dramatically likened what she says happened to her as being shot by Trump. This outrageous comparison suggests that she is a clout chaser who will grab at any straw for publicity. We welcome our new and regular visitors to our fourth video in our series on the alleged rape, as we continue to make the case that, by her own testimony, Carroll's allegations must be false. In this video, titled The Shooting of a Trump Accuser and the Death of Equity, we provide the second example to support our claim that the media is so obsessed with Donald Trump that they are willing to enable an obvious liar for what they perceive to be the greater good of getting him, and thus resulting in the death of impartiality in media coverage of his affairs. By way of a brief summary, in the first two videos, we set out our grounds for concluding that Carroll must have lied about the rape that allegedly took place in the lingerie section's dressing room. This is because her description of how she was penetrated must be false, given that her tights were only pulled down and not removed. Furthermore, if for the sake of argument, we concede that penetration had occurred in the manner she described, then it would also have been impossible for her to have pushed him off with her knees, as alleged. Fuller details are available to our new visitors, and we recommend that they view them to update themselves. In the third video, we turned our attention to the appalling bias in the media coverage of her allegations. To start with, there was their abject failure to acknowledge or recognize that her version of the rape must be false for the reasons we have already outlined. Secondly, they never pushed back on any inconsistencies in her narrative, or the poor judgment that she displayed as a 52-year-old feminist, an advice columnist, who deliberately flirted with and willingly followed a casual acquaintance, who was married, and who did not even know her name, into a dressing room to try on lingerie. Instead, they repeatedly glossed over or attempted to gaslight any such inconsistencies or poor judgment in her narrative. Last but not least, they repeatedly put words in her mouth and led her throughout the interview. The third video was about Carroll's interview by Alison Camerota on CNN's New Day, and this video is about her interview with Chris Matthews on MSNBC's Hardball 5 days later. Excerpts from the video are presented for your attention and ease of reference. In the opening sequence, Matthews acknowledged that Carroll was an old friend and frequent guest on his old show. He then went on to introduce the testimony of two of Carroll's friends as corroboration of her alleged rape. This was simply not true and a disingenuous effort by Matthews and all his media colleagues to lend credence to her allegations. Her friends are simply testifying to what she told them and cannot possibly testify to what allegedly happened in the dressing room. There was the obligatory reference to her tights being pulled down, which we have already addressed, but we are not aware that either Carroll, her friends, her book, or any other source have commented on if he also pulled her panties off or not. This is something that is obviously critical to an allegation of rape. Furthermore, it should be noted that these two friends are journalists who had not memorialized this traumatic event in their lives, and which ultimately accounts for why Carroll is now unable to tie down the day, month, season, or year that she suffered this traumatic event that killed something in her and caused her not to have any more relationships with men. Astonishingly, instead of asking Carroll why she came forward with her allegations, Matthews decided to proffer his opinion, which portrayed Carroll as a heroine and which she of course jumped on. He then led her again on why she waited for decades before coming out with her allegations. In a staggering display of self-importance and aloofness reminiscent of Marie Antoinette, Carroll declared that making their allegations through a book was a good way for women to proceed. Astonishing.
It's been a little less than a week since E Jean Carroll, a prominent author and frequent guest on my old show in the old days, accused President Trump of sexually assaulting her in the mid-90s. In an excerpt from her new book published in New York Magazine, Carroll describes an incident in which Donald Trump allegedly assaulted her and forced himself on her in a department store dressing room. Yesterday, two of her friends went on the record with the New York Times to back up her story. Lisa Birnbach, an author, and Carol Martin, a journalist, recounted their conversations at the time of the alleged incident with Carroll. In this clip, Birnbach explains the initial conversation she had with Carroll. Let's listen.
It was horrible. We fought. And I said, let's go to the police. No. Come to my house. No, I want to go home.
Right.
I'll take you to the police. No. It was 15 minutes of my life. It's over. Don't ever tell anybody. I just had to tell you.
I'm E Jean Carroll, author of What Do We Need Men For? That's a provocative title right there, which comes out next Tuesday. Thank you. I don't mean to be jocular, but I haven't seen you in a while, Jean. It's great to have you on, not for this reason, but perhaps for the book.
So happy to see you again, Chris. We go back to the days, you know.
America's talking.
What? Yeah,
America's
talking. And you led us. You were just brilliant. You were a columnist. Remember, you were
sure. San Francisco
writer.
Examiner and Chronicle, yeah.
And Roger Ailes put you on the air.
That's right. Oh. Have you been able to get, I was trying to think about why you came forward now, and I was thinking maybe it was in the process of giving advice to women who've had terrible situations, and you've been their counselors.
You nailed it. That's exactly it. Since Jodi Cantner and Megan Twohey hit the New York Times with the Harvey Weinstein story,
yeah,
my column was flooded with women asking me if they should go forward and report their boss. Should they call the police about their son-in-law? You know, who do they speak to? E. Jean, please help me. I don't know what to do. And then I, of course, felt terrible because I've had the secret all these years and have not made a peep about it. And here these women are, whom I love. I love these women. I love my correspondents. And I just hadn't been straight with them. I just hadn't been straight. So I had to come forward.
I'm trying to think about, and I think I understand, but I'm just going to guess, and you tell me if I'm right. You're not nobody. You're a figure of people know your name. They know you're a professional. You know the media and how it works. You were able to go through the ropes of the media. You knew how to do it. If you wanted to put this story out, you could have done it. Is it because you didn't want to be known as the woman that was raped?
I'm not a victim. I'm a woman who went through a very short period of time where an event happened, and I think of it as a fight. And so I could have come forward, Chris, flanked with attorneys, maybe famous attorneys who represented women who suffered sexual violence. I could have spoken to a press conference, which would have been a horrible thing. But I wanted to control my own story. I wanted to get it down on paper. I wanted to control every word of it. And then I gave it out. And I think that is a good way for women to proceed.
Yeah.
Astonishing. In another shocking display that defies belief, Matthews and Carroll engaged in a surreal attempt to make a distinction between erotic rape by invitation and what allegedly happened to her. Why this walking sponge of contradictions who has described herself as a boy-crazy flirt and a feminist who approves of women marrying for money was not affronted by this comparison is lost to us. The fact that Carroll went on to draw a comparison between the lead-up to her alleged dressing room encounter with Trump and the romanticized rape portrayed in the 1943 fictional novel, The Fountainhead, which was later turned into a movie, is intriguing, to say the least. This urge to compare the notion of romanticized rape and what she claimed happened to her is repeated in other interviews, and we invite our viewers to provide their opinions on why this theme keeps recurring below. Carroll, dumbfoundedly, referred to the lingerie dressing room, where she was allegedly raped, as a scene, and the banter between her and Trump in the lead-up to the scene as very flirtatious, delightful, funny, getting better and better. And like Alison Camerota before him, Matthews attempted to gaslight this obviously inappropriate exchange between a self-acclaimed feminist and another woman's husband by glossing over it. Those who have viewed our video on the Camerota interview will recall that she refrained from describing the exchange as flirtatious.
I was thinking about what you said about you wanted to say it was not anything like romance, anything like what we think of as sex positively. Enjoyable, I'd say, in that sense. It was like you didn't want it to seem like Dominic Franken in The Fountainhead, where she's raped by the guy and said, "Oh, this is great." Remember that scene that Ayn Rand wrote?
It's emblazoned on my brain. Here's the lead up to the scene was very flirtatious, delightful. We were bantering back and forth. We were telling jokes. I was delighted that I, had run into Donald Trump, and he had asked for my advice about buying a present. And Chris, to me, it was funny. It was a funny scene that we would end up in the lingerie department. To me, it was just getting better and better, and I was going to have a great story to dine out on, and it was going to be, And then,
yeah, I get it. I watched that.
Towards the end of the interview, Matthews alarmingly drew a similarity to Trump's famous claim that he could get away with shooting someone dead on the streets of New York, and he, apparently thinking he could get away with raping Carroll. Unsurprisingly, Carroll soaked up this comparison and theatrically declared that Trump had, to all intents and purposes, shot her in the dressing room on that day and killed something in her, to the extent that she has never been with another man since that day.
Believe you, and I think the contemporary accounts you gave to other people certainly gives it validity and genuineness and truth. To me, truth is the right word. But Donald Trump said, I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. Here he committed this sexual assault on Fifth Avenue. It's unbelievable.
I haven't thought of that. That's exactly right. And it's, I basically was shot in that dressing room. He basically shot me. Ever since that event has happened, I've never been with another man.
Yeah, I read
and that's been 25 years. So he shot something in me, even though I jumped back up and my chin is up and I've been smiling and I've certainly moved on. He did shoot. He did kill something in me.
E Jean, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
So according to Carroll, this alleged rape that she had moved beyond had so traumatized her that she has never been able to be with another man since then. Significantly, Matthews, hosting an interview on a program titled Hardball, did not see fit to ask Carroll any hard questions, never pushed back on any of the obvious lies, red flags and inconsistencies, and chose instead to enable her deception and launder her narrative. Whatever Trump has done or not done, he is entitled to a fair trial and not a framing. Thank you for watching, and if you want to be updated on when our next installment is published, please click on the subscribe button.